growing up before you went on this powerful and magical adventure. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, basically, I always felt like I was a bit of the black sheep of the family. And as I was kind of like growing up, I was always sort of like interested in witchy poo type things. If anyone was sort of mysterious, I was always kind of like very attracted to kind of anyone that was sort of spiritual or black magic or white magic, any sort of magic. And I was very sort of drawn to it. And I really was always interested in health and fitness, like health and well-being. And it wasn't something that, you know, was around in my family particularly. You know, I grew up on sugar. But as I kind of like somehow got interested in fitness, I was just very, very drawn to kind of spiritual things. You know, at the time we're talking a long time ago. 30 sort of like more years, but it's something that I've always felt like I've always been led. Always sort of like always sort of like followed my instinct. And
well, I mean, this is the interesting dichotomy that I see when we first connected. You are quite the consummate professional. You are on LinkedIn. You have a great presence. You do great work with organizations, individuals, corporates, so on and so forth. And yet, when I hear you speak, I hear this deep, profound sense of knowing, this adventurer. How did the adventurer in you come out? And was there a corporate side? Was there an old life that you used to live that was the catalyst to this journey that you went on?
Well, I've always had I worked for myself since I was 26. So I did have a few jobs, but always felt like I was a bit unemployable. And I remember, because actually at the time, my very first kind of business was I was a aerobics teacher, a fitness teacher, and a massage therapist. And I remember someone asking me, you know, what did I want out of my life? And the thing that came right out of my mouth was freedom. I always wanted to be free. I never wanted to be ball and chained to an office, ball and chained to a couch, ball and chained to a studio. I never want to be ball and chained anywhere. And I kind of like I've always set my businesses up for me to be able to travel. I did have a business. I had a beauty business actually. And I kind of like set that up so it kind of ran itself.
Right.
And it was incredible because I was able to travel, you know, I'd go off to India for a couple of months. And then of course the Italy thing came up and I just decided that I wanted to have a house in Italy, and everyone thought I was completely nuts. But I just knew, I just saw a few pictures and I thought I want to go there. I want to have a place there. And I just focused on it. I had no money. And I just kind of like, you know, when I showed my parents the house, it was all tumbled down. It was like trees growing out in the middle. And, you know, I kind of thought I'd save the house, but I had to knock most of it down. I had no money, and I just sort of like, I remember feeling so focused and so clear that I am going to do that. And so my other company kind of like made that all happen. And I think that because I set it up for me to be free, I was able to travel, I was able to do courses. And, you know, I was always going somewhere. I was always on a plane going somewhere, learning something. And, you know, that's the story of my life, basically, for the last sort of like 35, 40 years.
Phenomenal. So there's been travel. Now, there was the time at India, and tying back that journey a little bit and kind of bringing us closer to the present. You are renowned as the sleep guru. You've helped countless executives, professionals, and everyone in between to help with specifically with this area around sleep hygiene and the things that are associated with that. What was the key training or turning point that happened during your time, I believe, in India that led to this particular field of expertise?
Well, basically, when I was suffering from chronic insomnia, my mother kind of gave me one of her sleeping pills, and I felt so awful the next day. I thought, this can't be right. This can't be the way.
Hmm.
And I was doing a bit of yoga at the time, as I said, and I wasn't really kind of getting it. I wasn't getting what I felt yoga meant. So I just went off to India, and my guru, who gave me my name, when I was leaving, he said, Anandi, he said, go home and do belly breathing twice a day, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, going up to 40 minutes and 40 minutes. And I thought, hang on a minute, we've just been doing these really advanced stuff. You know, you're sending me home to do belly breathing. And that completely, I did it. I did as I was told. And I learned so much about the breath. And it just transformed my whole ability to fall asleep and stay asleep, because I was always someone who was actually very stressed out. My mother was always stressed out, and I was always stressed out, especially with my other business. And I always felt like, you know, I had this button inside me that someone pressed it, and I would kind of like just always feel like the adrenaline was being pumped in, like it was on tap.
Yeah.
But as soon as I started just working with the breath, and the amazing thing is what I realized that the breath taught me was that sometimes in life you have to surrender. And we all think we have to work harder and we get more. But the breath taught me that the more you try to control it, the less you get. And that was not just a lesson about the breath for me, that was a life lesson, because sometimes we have to surrender. That's why my technique in my book is called the surrendered breath. And because one of the experiments that I did that was really interesting, that I'd love to share, was that I was experimenting with sort of the length of one round of breath. And I put my sort of like my iPhone timer thingy, you know, as soon as I was at the end of the exhale, I go start and then see how many seconds that was. So just a round of breath when I was thinking to myself, oh, I'm going to take a nice deep breath now. So I took a nice deep breath that I thought was a long deep breath, and that was about 18, 20 seconds. And then I went, right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, at the end of the exhale, I'm going to press start, and I'm going to wait for the breath to arrive. Instead of just like going grabbing, trying to get the breath, I'm just going to
wait till it naturally comes back. Yeah.
And that was about 60, 55 seconds. And the difference between controlling, trying to go grabbing for it, and just trusting that it will come, because the breath will come. And I think the trusting that things will come is also very much, it is, because that's the thing with sometimes with people who aren't sleeping very well, they're so stressed out, they're kind of grabbing, they're kind of like trying to control everything in their space. And sometimes we have to just plant the seeds, and we have to just allow the things to come when they're ready. And that was a huge point.
I mean, it's a powerful analogy for life. And I think especially at crisis times in our life, as many of us are facing right now, a lot of people find that some of the biggest stresses they have is to do with the loss of control. Yes. And I think as a society, and maybe I would, by extension, I would extend this to the Western world, but certainly as a society here and generally in the West, I think we've been taught, our education system teaches us to very much take control, to grab control, to be in charge. And when we're not in charge, when we're not in control, there is fear, anxiety, stress. These things start to creep up. And yet what you're alluding to is deliberate surrender, that there is a deliberate relinquishing of that control. Exactly. And that part of our relief from stress, improved sleep, probably the benefits for, of course, you know, as a well-being expert myself, I certainly believe it. But, you know, for those who are doubters out there, to start to realize that the benefits of surrendering and releasing control can actually play out into our business and our professional lives, as well as our health as well. Is that something you found abundant evidence of working with people across the years?
Absolutely. absolutely, because people are scared to kind of let go. They're scared to sort of surrender completely. And another lesson that the breath has taught me is that unless you're prepared to let it really go,
Right.
you can't take it in. So you have to kind of like, because I was experimenting with inhales and exhales, I was experimenting with all sorts of things, but actually like letting the exhale go until you're completely empty. And then you get this incredible filling, this incredible expansion of the breath, but also it's like your brain is kind of like feeding. It's just the most amazing experience. And I learned through the breath that you can't be the best expression of yourself
Right.
unless you're prepared to let it go. So you're not going to be able to expand your infinite self as much as you would be if you were prepared to just kind of like surrender it and then really let go and let go and take the rest. Like just on a practical level, let go. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
Stop. You know, this old fashioned work ethic of, you know, people who are getting up at 5 on their email and working till midnight, that was supposed to be like, you know, oh, how great are they? You know, they're working really hard. They must
Well,
be
people
really
are wearing it as a badge of honor, right? I mean, let's not lie about that. People
exactly.
still wear it as a badge of honor, and that's the sad thing.
Exactly. Whereas actually for me, true success is having time. Like actually time is the biggest gift, because actually, yes, we all need money. That's very true. But time, you're never going to get time back. And if you
No.
think you're going to wait till you're 70 before you're going to give yourself time to do what you like, forget it. You know, you might be dead by then.
And and let's not forget that, you know, we're supposed to be having the quality of our sleep. The worse of the quality of our sleep, the more likely the quality and duration of our lifespan is also adversely impacted. The two are intimately connected. And so sleep and lifespan are, you know, obviously modern science confirms that, you know, Western medicine agrees that. But what fascinates me is your approach. We've in these short minutes that we've been speaking, not once have I heard you talk about prescribing or suggesting certain sleep pills. I've not heard you talk about allopathic treatments and pathways that obviously exist in abundance. And that's what I find fascinating about what you have in your toolbox, because it seems that you've taken an approach which is very different. And I wanted to ask you this, if I may, Anandi. Now, I know you're the author of a well-renowned book on sleep, Breathe Better, Sleep Better. And that book that you've authored, you talk about a technique, Sleepology. Could you share, could you help us, first of all? Well, I want to do two things. I'd like to deconstruct for our audiences a little bit about the science of sleep as you see it from your very much real experience, rather than those scientists sitting in a lab and doing tests with double-blind placebo tests and all kinds of other things with subjects. This is you, real life, personal and field tested experiences. So I want to talk about deconstructing sleep a little bit, but before we do that, could you give us an understanding of, you know, how you regard the subject of sleep in terms of what we should be aspiring for? And are there certain myths that we need to dispose of first? For example, everybody needs 8 hours sleep. Everybody needs to go to bed before midnight because it's worth double the time, all those things. Any myths that you'd care to blow away first?
Well, one of the things I definitely like to blow away, very much so, is this idea that it's all right to sleep for 5 hours, because there's only a very small number of people that have in their DNA that they can survive on 4 hours. The rest of us, we have to sleep for at least 7 hours. There's people that say less. I know most sleep experts, neuroscientists and people like that, they will say 8 hours, because your brain and your body, like when you're awake, there's damage going on. You know, you have to repair. So when you're sleeping, the body has to repair. The brain has to actually cleanse. It's a bit like you have, you know, a rubbish bin. That's what I like to say. Like in the morning, you've got an empty rubbish bin. The angels have come to sort of empty the rubbish bin. That's your brain. During the day, you're chucking stuff in there.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, it's like full. And then when you go to sleep, the angels come in and they take all the rubbish out. So in the morning, you feel like fresh and clear because the brain has been cleansed, literally. You know, you have proteins that build up in the brain and the fluid comes up and it cleanses and it comes out again. It can't do that during the day. You haven't got enough energy to be walking, talking, thinking and cleansing your
And
brain at the
cleansing.
same time. So even just from that perspective, you know, you do need sleep. You have to accept the fact that you can't sleep. You can't only do 4 hours and then it's not, you know, there's that whole thing that someone says, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, forget it. That's
Yeah.
really like one of, you know, don't sleep when you're dead.
I think
Sleep.
Yeah,
And you can live well.
that old phrase, sleep is for wimps. I think that's got to be left in where it came from in the 1990s. It's got to be left.
It is, exactly.
So then, okay, so we blow away that myth number one. What else should we be dispelling with for our edification and for us to get really informed about what we need to get to grips with?
Okay, so that thing that you were saying about, oh yes, going to bed before a certain time, actually it's true. Because if you look at the way that the world works, everything kind of works in a rhythm. The body likes to do certain times at certain things at certain times of day. And if you prefer to run uphill against nature, then you'll have to pay for it. When you're running uphill against nature, so what I mean by that, as an example, if you're eating like your main meal like at 8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. in the evening,
Yeah.
you can't expect your body to be happy about trying to digest a load of food when it's actually trying to go to sleep. The cook's gone home. You know, you're chucking stuff down there. Your digestive fire is going down because your body temperature needs to go down in order for you to go into a deep sleep. So respecting the cycles of nature also means that, you know, you have to eat really your main meal when the sun is above your head, because that's when your digestive fire is at its most active, you know, when the sun is above your head. If you look at nature, then, you know, you can't go far wrong. Going to bed in the evening. So if you look at sleep, if you've ever looked at the sleep cycles and look at that sleep architecture, you can see it on these apps and things. I have an Aura ring actually, which I really like. You know, it gives you a great idea of the sleep cycles that you're going through. You know, it might not be 100% accurate, but it will certainly gives you a great idea. And over the years that I've been doing it myself, I can see that if I've had enough, you know, dream sleep, more, you know, sufficient dream sleep, the right amount of dream sleep, I feel so much more clear-headed the next day. If I've had the right amount of deep sleep, I feel physically more rested.
Right.
Now, the sleep cycles go in, you know, like you go around about 5 cycles.
Ultradians, right? They say ultradians, 90 minutes from what I studied sleep for a while. Is that?
Yeah, about 90 minutes. So it goes 90 minutes. So you would go through about 5. And obviously in the early hours, you'll get more deep sleep. In the later hours, you'll get more REM sleep. You will still get some more deep sleep in the early hours, but it's mostly REM. Therefore, if you go to bed, like some people say, well, you know, I'm good, I go to bed at 12:30 at night. Well, you know, you're not going to get the right amount of deep sleep, because the deep sleep, you know, your body in the 24-hour cycle in nature, right, you're going deep in the earlier, you know, before midnight. So that old wives' tale, you know, sleep is worth more before midnight than after midnight, there's actually some truth in that. So that is not a myth, that's actually perfectly true. And I think that we have to have some yin and yang, you know, we have to have some of that, you know, and obviously we have to live. So, you know, on a Saturday night, going out and you might be going out for dinner, you know, of course you're going to go out and have dinner at 8 o'clock, but I work on the 80%, 20% rule. So 80% of the time, you know, I'm really good, you know, and then like on a Saturday night or, you know, whatever, because I don't practice on a Sunday morning. So Saturday night's my night. So I don't get up 5:30 in the morning on Sunday morning. I just have that as my rest day. You know, but most of the time, because I know I function better, I want to be the best version of myself. Therefore, I know that I need to have enough sleep and I need to be in a rhythm. And it's not just me, people do. People need to be in a rhythm. People need to respect the rhythms of nature, and they will be so much better. Their body's going to be using less energy if you're in the rhythm with nature.
Right. Now, this, I don't dispute any of what you're saying. And I think, you know, obviously as a passionate well-being expert and specialist, I very much extol the same thing to everyone I work with as well. But there is a growing body of work, and I know there are a lot of people out there who are becoming vocal about it. Tim Ferriss, Dave Asprey, a lot of these guys have been, the podcast gurus out there have been big about this, and that is about the sleep chronotype. Now, when you're looking at the chronotype, they're talking about people's chronotype being different, and therefore they're talking mind value are on it as well. Like, hey, don't beat yourself up if you're wanting to work it. So there is a body of thought that says, hey, don't try and force yourself to be productive and super on it during the day. Maybe your time is after people go to bed, after 7 o'clock in the evening, 8 o'clock. What do you say to this idea of chronotypes and, performance?
Well,
that's the trend.
I say, I come from an Ayurvedic background, so I am in agreement with certain people are better at certain times of day. But
and folks, sorry, folks, for those of you who didn't catch that, Ayurvedic, by the way, Anandi referred to Ayurvedic. Ayurveda is an ancient science from India. It dates back at least 5,500 years. Records date back even older in some of the Vedas to 8,000 years. But Ayu means life, Veda means knowledge. So it's the knowledge of life. Ayurveda is the oldest medicinal and physiological science, holistic science of its kind in the world. Anandi, is that how you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. So those people were incredibly wise. And I think, I'm not knocking the chronotype thing, but I think that it's kind of a bit sort of like similar to Ayurveda in as much as, some people need more of one than others. But I still don't buy that people need to work at 10 o'clock at night. I just don't buy it, because the brain is trying to quieten down. If you look at nature, the way nature works,
the rhythm is calming down, slowing down.
Yeah. It's unnatural just because you're a whatever chronotype that thinks you can work at 11 p.m. I don't really get it. I don't buy it. I don't agree with that. I think that yes, in Ayurveda there's 3 different types. You have subtypes and everything. Some things go out of balance. So there are some people who are just more fiery and things, but even so, the sun goes down at night and it gets up in the morning. It goes up in the morning.
I guess no, I agree, and I guess there's a lot of science substantiating. When we look at bioscience, there's a lot of bioscience that substantiates what you talk about when we talk about the conducive hormonal profiling that follows good quality sleep and good quality sleep habits. Cortisol levels coming down at the right time, very IGF-1, various other hormones regulating the parasympathetic system gets its time to work out. BDNF, right? Everybody, brain-derived neurotropic factor, the brain repairs, as you say it, right? So there is a lot of science that's saying that hormonal profiling, to be optimal, does require better quality sleep. And as you're now saying, quantity of sleep as well, that both these features seem to play a real part.
Yeah, they do.
Definitely. So, what would you say as some important tips here? We've deconstructed sleep a little bit. We understand that there are cycles of sleep. We typically sleep in roughly 90-minute cycles. The body typically wants, not just the body here, but actually, let's rephrase, the body, the mind, the brain, the whole system, the human system needs around 5 of those cycles, typically, from what you're saying. Preferably, we want those cycles to start prior to midnight. So that's a good bit of deconstruction. And we know that sleep comprises of deep sleep, where there's deep dreamless sleep, and then you've got the dreamful sleep, and the body needs both. We can't just have one without the other for cognitive repair and all the other things that happen. How can we start to bring this about? What can we start to do?
Well, as I say, being in rhythm with nature is the most important thing you can do. So things like going back to the eating in the evening, for example, just as an example, your digestive fire is actually coming down. Your body needs to drop. The temperature of your body needs to drop in order for you to go into a deep sleep. And you will not go into a deep sleep if your body is digesting food. So the first thing is actually eating light in the evening. Light in the evening. Obviously stimulants. I know people, stimulants, everyone kind of talks about stimulants, but people still drink coffee at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Now you have got they go, oh, I drink decaf. Well, there's still 15 to 30% caffeine in decaffeinated coffee, plus all the processing that goes through whatever they do, whatever things they do to it to make it decaffeinated. I think if you're going to have coffee, have organic, proper coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning, and don't have anything else during the day. But just bear in mind that actually you're still processing that coffee
even after.
When you're going to bed, after decaf, those stimulants, are really, really important. Obviously, alcohol is also a stimulant. Alcohol. People say, another myth. Oh, alcohol helps me kind of like go to sleep. Alcohol is like an anesthetic. An anesthetic that's knocking you out. It's not sending you to sleep. It's actually suppressing your REM sleep, your very, very important dream sleep. And probably what will happen is if you're drinking alcohol in the evening, like too much alcohol, a glass of wine's fine, of course. But if you're drinking it too near bedtime, then you've still got to process it. The body needs lots of water to process it. And where does the body get the water from when you're asleep if you're dehydrating? From the brain. That's what hangover's all about. Because you got all this. Where's the most water in your body? So you're going to be very dehydrated, which is why your brain goes, oh my god,
hence the hangovers,
and like your brain is really
contribute to hangovers and stuff.
Exactly. And of course, there's the whole thing about brain waves. You're zooming around with your brain going in like the beta, like daytime brain waves.
Yeah.
And of course, what's happening is that's so intimately connected with your ego. So that the ego obviously is there to protect you, right? So it's there to protect you, your physical being, keep you out of danger, not allowing anything that's going to, harm you or not you walk into harm. But unfortunately, your brain, when it's in that state, will be connecting to that kind of part of you that's judging, it's criticizing, it's keeping you small, it's comparing. Because the human being was not designed to be in that mode from the moment they wake up, like picking their phone up on Facebook at 6 o'clock in the morning.
And I was going to say, and it's a shame that, we've got this phrase now in, modern parlance. I'm too tired. I'm too wired to be tired, right?
Exactly.
What's going on there, and Andy? What are we getting wrong?
Well, we're getting wrong the fact that we are always wired. There's no respite during the day. There's no kind of being time. There's no breathing. So I always say to people, at least top and tail your day with some kind of practical activity
where you switch off.
Exactly.
Yes. I call it going into airplane mode for the mind.
Exactly.
I know, we put our phones in airplane mode. We should be putting this and the system.
Exactly. Disconnecting, we're becoming more connected out there and more disconnected in here.
So true.
And that is what's wiring us up. The more separation we create from like the whole, the more wired we become, because we are all, everyone is interconnected with everything. And the ego makes us separate. It's me, it's mine, I want more. It's a bit like that hungry ghost kind of. Have you ever heard of that hungry ghost story? It's I read it years ago in a really wonderful book by Stephen Coates. I'd like to give him a plug. I think he's amazing. It's all the wisdom of yoga, and he talks about this hungry ghost. So basically, it's this being that has this very long neck, very thin neck, and a very tiny mouth with this enormous belly, and he's never satiated. So he can only have small bites of things. But he's still never, ever satisfied. And I think that's what the ego's doing. It's like we want more and we want more and we want more and we want more. We're never actually happy being with kind of what we've got, looking forward, we never kind of appreciate kind of like,
No.
In fact, now is one of the times during this time, in this time of pandemic when we've got to be at home, we've got to do a lot more being and be happy with kind of what we've got. But generally speaking, I think this running around, never being satiated, we've always got to have more, is keeping us very wired, and we're stressed because stress, the definition of stress really is the fact that you haven't got what you want. So you're stressed. You know, stress is there because you don't actually have what you want. And when you're constantly in that stress and the brain is going around and round and round in beta the whole time, you are really not going to be able to wind down very easily. It's going to be very hard for you to wind down. You're going to be wired and you won't be able to go to sleep when your brain is doing that, which is why you need to at least have some kind of top and tailing of the day, of some sort of wind down, and at least in the morning, don't pull your brain out of sleep and look at your phone. Spend first half an hour of the day with the spirit, or with yourself, you know, just being, and have your tea and just sit quietly without pulling your brain. It's not good for your brain. It's like a big sandstorm in the brain when you're immediately going into like checking your Facebook mode or whatever you're doing in the email.
There's no easing into it. I get it, and that can cause problems. I know a lot of you know, speaking to people in the neuroscience world, they are pointing out how there are infinitely rapidly growing cases of cognitive impairment and various other situations, like, for example, dyslexia, ADD, ADHD, and so forth. A lot of these are being attributed to people being too wired too early in the day and not having that topping and tailing. So it seems that it's crucial to have that. And obviously, I guess, you know, with the two of us being in the well-being space, I think having a meditation or mindfulness routine is a huge part, even if it's a short one, to have that at the, you know, the beginning and the end of the day, I suppose, to increase that. And obviously you've talked about eating food earlier and keeping your meals lighter. You've talked about intoxicants, including the misinformation that's there about, or the misunderstanding about alcohol, coffee, and so forth. And I guess we can talk about blue light filters and other hacks to try and carry on work longer. But I know you've deliberately, I noticed you've carefully sidestepped that, because obviously I guess your wisdom would be, don't look at the damn things at night. Forget the blue light.
People go, oh, I've got some of those glasses, or I put it on aircraft. And just turn it off. These things, turn it off. Forget the glasses and the nightcraft mode on your computer. It needs to go off because it's stimulating. It's constantly stimulating the brain. The brain you have to look after your brain. You know, you have to look at, it's a bit like, you know, looking after your body. We want to kind of, there's all this stuff about healthy food, you know, healthy food, of course. But what about the brain? You need to sleep, and you need to give your brain respite during the day, not just expect it to be wired from the moment you open your eyes, from the moment you kind of like close your eyes, because you won't sleep very well anyway if that happens.
A couple of things that did come to mind before I forget. You just mentioned there about having respite during the day, and obviously, obviously I know we both are big advocates for ensuring that people take breaks during the day. Our clients take 15-minute breaks. I kind of talk about the 90-minute rule. Go do 90 minutes of focus sprint. Don't try and multitask. Do 90 minutes, single tasking, do a piece of work, and then do something completely different for 15 minutes. Go for a walk, meditate, go and chat with your friends, do something that takes you away from that mode of activity. So we've talked about respite, and I know you're touching on that. What about the role of exercise or intense exercise? I hear some people say, Anandi, that, you know, doing some brief and intense exercise during the morning part of the day helps to induce a better quality sleep. Is there any truth in any of these techniques that are now kind of coming out there?
Well, I think there's a lot of fashionable things that come out, these sort of like techniques and interval training and this training and that training. It's a bit like, you know, this yoga and that yoga or whatever, but exercise we need to be doing. We need exercise, we need fresh air, and whatever form that is, I would say don't get hung up about the techniques.
Right.
I think that it's so important to have fresh air. The body needs to move, you know, the spine needs to move in the 6 directions. We need to breathe. We need to make sure the breathing apparatus is free, so they're not kind of like, you know, you're not shallow breathing. So opening the body, moving the body, you know, raising the heart rate, all those sorts of things. And whatever way kind of works for you. And that kind of goes back in like chronotype thing. You know, like the Ayurvedic Vata Pitta Kapha, the 3 types, you know, they have their preference, and we have to kind of like have certain things that we need to be doing. So the type that actually doesn't like moving very much, you know, they need to be disciplined and they need to move. you know, and the other type, and the Vata type, you know,
They need
really
to slow down
is
and
all on the move. They need to sort of slow down,
yeah,
but they
very
still
true.
need to move. They need to move in a different kind of way. And the pitters, they need challenging, but not too much challenging. So, you know, I think there's a lot of stuff out there. There's so many different gym type things and different gadgets that you can get and all sorts of things. But I think keep it simple, move, breathe, you know, raise your heart rate and find what works for you with some sort of mental respite.
Interjected during the course of the day and time shift a little bit to the left of the clock and get in there a little earlier with that sort of precious, sacred 30 minutes or hour of switch off at the beginning and the end of the day in order to prime, I guess, our brain and our body and our mind to be ready to get into that sleep state. It's almost like it's a ritual. It's a pre-sleep ritual almost is what you're.
It's like going to bed without cleaning your teeth or getting up without cleaning your teeth. It will be, once it's ingrained in you,
It'll be,
your body will be looking, you'll be looking out for it. It's like you kind of like, it's an automatic thing, and you feel weird if you don't do it. And if you do it in that way and it becomes a ritual, like your body's ready for it. It's like your body's, like in the morning, for example, when I get up in the morning, I don't keep pressing the snooze button. The alarm goes off and I get out of bed. Because, and I'm ready, you know, I'm ready to get out of bed at that time, because that's half the work. The fact that I'm in a rhythm, that's half the work done for me. My body's looking out for it.
Phenomenal. I think there's some real nuggets there. I know, obviously, you've written for some of the national press here, Daily Mail, Evening Standard, and so on, and so Cosmopolitan, of course, let's not forget. Your book is available. I know your book will go into a lot more information. Breathe Better, Sleep Better. The book is available on Amazon and usual good book outlets. You alluded to your Ayurvedic training, the Chopra meditation, Deepak Chopra, and the various other skills and trainings you've had over the years. Ananda, tell us, as we move towards the end, tell us a little bit about Sleepology, your branded process, and how we can learn more.
Yeah, well, basically, Sleepology kind of like is something that I stumbled across in my own journey, because what I realized was that I also experienced that when I was having chronic insomnia. I was like stabbing around in the dark. I think, oh, I read somewhere that I should take valerian, and then I read somewhere, well, you know, I should take melatonin, and then or 5-HTP, and it will be kind of like
I've tried all of those.
and whatever, you know, whatever vitamin I read, you know, I was sort of chucking it down. But I realized that it doesn't really work like that. What does work is that you have to do things in a certain order. And the very first step is calming the nervous system down. You have to cut, because nothing is going to work, because the mind is so powerful. You see it from placebo. It will override everything. So you can be taking valerian if you like, but if you're still not changing anything about your lifestyle to calm your nervous system, that will not work.
Right.
So it starts with the nervous system, and in that, you know, in that principle, I've got breath, mindfulness, and movement. So that whole thing is the very first step. And then it's the whole digestive system. It's rhythm, it's rituals, it's managing your digestive fire, it's detoxifying the system. Because if your digestive system is not happy, that will disturb your sleep as well. Your microbiome, you know, that those sort of happy bugs that, you know, are in your gut. You know, you've got so many nerves in your gut, and health starts in the gut, right? You have to look after your gut. And so it's quietening the nervous system, it's managing and looking after and nourishing and taking care of the gut and balancing the digestive fire. And then it's moving into the consciousness. So it's actually getting connected to your dharma, getting connected to your purpose. Because when you're disconnected, when you're not being the best expression, or you're not expressing yourself as your intimate soul wants you to in this life, it's disturbing, you know. And when you're asleep, sometimes that's kind of like keeping you awake. Those messages are coming up, and they're like, hello, I'd love you to be, you know, I think this is what you need to be doing in this life. So you know, nourishing that part of you, getting connected to your path, and getting connected deeper to your inner self. many people that need nourished into to be taken in order for your body to have the energy to take you into a deep sleep.
Right.
That people don't realize. They go, I'm so tired, why don't I sleep? Well, because your body is so exhausted and worn out that it hasn't got the energy to take you into a deep sleep. So that's kind of like the process that I've kind of made it into the step by step, because it needs to be done in that order. You can't put the nourishment in. You will not be able to sit and meditate for a start. I can tell you, if your nervous system is all over the place, you will not be able to sit for more than 1 nanosecond. So you have to kind of work on that first.
Right.
And then you work through the whole digestive thing. And then you can then go, right, okay, I'm a bit calmer. This is all happy. Digestive system is really happy. Now I can actually get the nourishment out of my food because my digestive system's working properly. And now I'm able to be quiet enough to listen to the stuff that's coming from somewhere deeper in yourself.
And that's the beauty of what you've described. Sleepology doesn't just impact our sleep, and it's not a quick sleep fix. It's actually a life fix in some ways, because once you get sleep right, a lot of the latter part of the processes in the Sleepology process speak to our dharma, speak to our connectedness, our purpose. And therefore, really, it's also connected to our performance in the day. You know, and there's an intimate connection between our sleep, our performance, how we show up for others, how we show up for ourselves, and who we bring to the table each time we turn up, and, you know, how we interact with people. So I think it's a really powerful process. Obviously, people can go access the book, but you do have a program, if I'm not mistaken. You have a special Sleepology program, and there is something special that you wanted to announce. Do you want to just describe the program briefly?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, the program is, it's called Sleep Mastery, and it's a 10-week program. So I'm basically taking you through step by step. So there's a one-to-one with me, because one of the things, the most important things, is to actually work out where the imbalances are. So it's not just kind of going through the program, because it's bespoke, because everyone has slightly different needs, and there's going to be slightly different causes for the sleep issues. So we have to do the inquiry first. It's a deep inquiry.
Right.
And then there's coaching, and there's recorded content, and it's a program. It's a 10-week program.
Right.
Anyone who's coming on through here, there's a 10% discount. But just come to me and let me know where you heard about it, and I will give you the information. But it does work. It's a process, and if you're ready to really, you know, it's not for you if you're not ready to dedicate a bit of time to your well-being.
Right.
But if you are ready to go, right, actually, I'm really ready now, then this is the program, because it's very kind of like holistic and complete. I'm not just going to tell you to just do a bit of sleep hygiene and take a few valerian, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's what's attractive about it. You know, you have a deep care for the people you work with. You're bringing 30 plus years of knowledge and wisdom and training and stuff that you've seen work, and it's holistic. It works as does Ayurveda. It works holistically, and it treats the human being as a whole. It doesn't just try and separate one part and try to dissect things. It treats that person as a whole, and I think that's where its success lies. And obviously, folks, as you've heard there, Anandi is offering a special additional 10% for anybody who quotes this interview on stress to success or urban spirituality. So go take advantage of that. Reach out to Anandi. We'll leave the links below for that. Anandi, what have you got on the radar? What's happening for the rest of this year? Any particular things you'd care to share?
Well, I did have quite a few things going on for the rest of this year.
Wow. Yeah.
But most of my retreats are in Italy, but I do still have one in Italy in the diary still. The retreats are beautiful. They're 5 nights. It's not like a yoga retreat, just like yoga morning and evening. We've got theory. We've got one-to-ones. There are practices. You know, it's very healthy food. We have a proper chef. We have Ayurvedic food, and you have program to go home with. They're usually really amazing events. I do hope that one will still go ahead in September. So yeah, that's sort of the main thing on the radar. Unfortunately, the other things have got cancelled because of the pandemic, but
that's okay, because I know that one thing we all need is better quality sleep. So the demand will be there. Obviously, your training's been corporate to there as well. So folks, again, those of you who are tuned in, some of my leadership friends, if this is of interest, do feel free to reach out to Anandi. Again, the links will be within this interview. So go check them out and reach out to Anandi and see if she can help you. And on that note, Anandi, I want to thank you for giving your time and sharing a glimpse of the insights that I think can really make a profound impact, positive impact on the lives of everybody who chooses to take them up, and also for blowing away some of the myths that many of us may have been carrying around, to really pave the way for a more empowered conversation about sleep, and to be able to help us to understand the far-reaching impact of that sleep on stress, productivity, obviously the area of my specialism, and how we can start to really integrate sleep as part of a holistic approach to life. More needed now than ever, I think. And for those of you who are on lockdown, what better time than now to start to study some of this stuff, take on board this course, and really start to get to grips with some of this. So Anandi, the opportunity awaits with Anandi. Go reach out to her. And of course, last but not least, for those of you who are ready to take your organizations through this crisis and who want that additional support to help your workforces with their well-being, their stress levels, their resilience, help the leadership teams with the challenges they're going through, the additional challenges, do feel free to get in touch, because we have some programs that we can work with you on, tailored like Anandi's to your needs, to help you to work through this difficult period and really get your workforce and your leaders out of this with the right level of well-being and mindset support that you truly deserve and that you all need. So we're both at your services. Anandi, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
It's been a pleasure, folks. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next episode. Leave your comments. Don't forget to care and share. That's it from me, Prash. Anandi, take care.